now I'd like to take some time to talk to you about 3/4, new time signature. In 3/4, you still want to go right all the way back to the beginning and say, all right, it's really important, guys, that you tap your toe because that represents the pulse, okay? Your mouth, all those counts that you're going to be saying is the meter, how we measure time. The third thing is the hands, the rhythm. They think the hands are the most important, the rhythm is the most important, and it's just not. Usually when they're making these errors in sight reading, it's a pulse problem or it's a meter problem. Usually the rhythm is not the main issue, okay? Almost everyone that I've shown this system to says, oh, I already do that, I'm good to go. I just suggest that you keep watching these videos, the teaching videos, and also the really large number of clapping examples to just see how it's different. Because when I get into a longer conversation with those people who are like, yeah, I already do that, then we start to find, okay, well, I don't do that, but I do this, and I do this differently. And it's not to say that this is the only way, but this way has gotten results over and over again for me, for Matt Koperniak over at Riverwatch, for Paul and I when we taught for South Forsyth together. So it's a great system, and it works well if you obey it from top to bottom. So you want to make sure that you explain to them that the 3 on top of the 3/4 tells you 3 beats per measure, and that's pretty easy for them. But when you start to talk about the bottom number, sometimes they get a little confused. Just tell them the 4 will tell you that quarter note gets the beat, and they really don't quite get the bottom number until you start changing the bottom number. Like later on, if you do half, cut time, like with a 2/2 or 6/8, when the bottom number starts changing, then they'll start figuring it out. For now, I just say it, make sure that they've heard it a few times. They may not quite understand it, but tell them top number means this, bottom number means that each time you get to a new time signature. You want to make sure that you turn the metronome on at 66 beats per minute. And then the first thing that I usually show them, they've already done a bunch of 4/4, so they know quarter notes, they know half notes, they know whole notes, they know rests. The new thing is going to be these dotted half notes, okay? In 3/4, and it's very simple. You just want to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Very important. Much like the whole note. If you watch the last video, they think that a dotted half note is going to end on 3 because it's 3 beats. But there's beat 1. There's beat 2, and beat 3 actually lasts from the beginning of the number 3 all the way until 1 begins. So the rhythm really is this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And that's why oftentimes in music students won't hold whole notes out. They won't hold half notes out, dotted half notes, because they really in their mind don't understand when the note ends. So this system really helps you to make sure you're really emphasizing that the note ends on 1. When you see ties in clapping, please tell students the difference between a tie and a slur. So my definitions: a tie is a musical plus sign that adds the value of the 2 notes that it connects. Okay, that usually if you relate it to something very simple in math, they're good to go. A slur just means don't articulate while changing pitches. And if you like to use the word tongue, that's fine. We just use the word articulate in my program. A slur means don't articulate while changing pitches. So when you see ties in the clapping exercises, hold and chop them. Like if it's a quarter note tied to a quarter note, 1 and 2. Okay, so you're going to clap the first note, but you're going to hold the second. You're not going to go 1 and 2 for a tied note, because a quarter note tied to a quarter note, you and I both know that it's equal to a half note, so it should be clapped the same way as a half note. Now, there are no slurs in the rhythm portion of the book that I've written, but I highly recommend once your students get this system and start understanding it, they should be clapping out of their method book, any solos that they're playing, and the band music that you're working on, and that will have slurs in it. So when you clap slurs, make sure that they do them differently than ties. If you see like a G slurred to an F slurred to an E, I would make sure that you're clapping each note. And people will go, well, why hold for ties and why clap for slurs? Because when you're slurring, you are moving fingers. And when you're clapping, you're moving your hands, okay? When you're doing a tie, you don't move your fingers. So you should keep your hands together, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. model all of these different ideas, the ties, the dotted half note done correctly, and really demand that your students do them well. Again, don't be Dr. Doom, don't be harsh and mean to them, but do tell them when they're making mistakes, and twice as often tell them when they're doing well. So just to sum back up the whole clapping process, number one, you want to turn the metronome on. Number two, get that posture going. Get their spine curved, their shoulders up, back down, even have them put their fist in their spine, feet flat on the ground, a little bit in front of the back of the chair. And then tap your toe, count out loud the whole time, the whole exercise. Clap the rhythms, and only do 2 exercises twice each. Model new exercises for them while they use their gun. Use the lines and dots that I talked about earlier, the line that is my standard, and the dots that's either below, on, or above the standard. And keep the energy level high, and keep the clapping periods short, because if the energy level is high, the clapping periods are short, they won't dread clapping and counting. They'll just know, okay, this is what we do first every day. In my program, we clap and count, we do announcements, we do breathing exercises, we do long tones. We have the set thing that we do every day, and clapping is always the first thing because it gets them settled, it gets them sitting right, and it turns their brains on.